60 Minutes did a piece on, what is this, from Florida?
Yes.
Some kids in Florida going to school. This is a devastating piece, and we'll link to it on the blog at Majority FM. Avant will get it in the roundup. Maybe we'll put it on the Tumblr site. I'm going to play you 2 clips. This is just incredibly heartbreaking. This is before austerity measures that are not only going to destroy our economy even more, not only going to reduce jobs in this country, but are going to cut away to the bone the safety net for kids like this. Let's play the intro from this first.
Unemployment improved a bit last month, but it's still nearly 9%. And the trouble is, job creation is so slow, it will be years before we get back the 7.5 million jobs lost in the Great Recession. American families have been falling out of the middle class in record numbers. The combination of lost jobs and millions of foreclosures means a lot of folks are homeless and hungry for the first time in their lives. One of the consequences of the recession that you don't hear much about is the record number of children descending into poverty. The government considers a family of 4 to be impoverished if they take in less than $22,000 a year. Based on that standard and government projections of unemployment, it is estimated the poverty rate for kids in this country will soon hit 25%. Those children would be the largest American generation to be raised in hard times since the Great Depression.
You remember, I think there was some time ago, I referenced an article that I found, I think, through John Walker at Fire Dog Lake. I think it was in Steep magazine. I'm not sure, STEEP. And it was a study that was done, I think, by Harvard researchers, which they had tested lab rats. And they tried to measure the implications of stress for young rats. And one of the most stressful things that a rat apparently can go through when they're a child is to be separated from their mother. And they found that in these tests, in separating them from their mother, that not only did these young rats suffer tremendous stress at that moment, but their brains developed in such a way that they had an incapacity to deal with stress as they got older. The scars from that stress at that age affected them for the rest of their lives. It made them less able to deal with situations as they got older. I want you to contemplate when you hear the next clip from that 60 Minutes. This is when Scott Pelley sits down with the class of 25 kids and starts asking them, how many of you have gone to bed hungry? Something like 80% of the kids raised their hand. This is a clip that they played of the kids discussing their situation.
It's like...
This is pretty heartbreaking.
Who can tell me what it's like to feel hungry?
It's like hard, you can't sleep, you just like wait, you just go to sleep for like 5 minutes and you wake up again and your like stomach hurts and you're thinking, I can't sleep, I'm gonna try and sleep, but you can't because like your stomach's hurting and it's because it doesn't have any food in it.
And it's like a black hole. And sometimes when I don't eat, my stomach, you can hear like it's like growling, you can hear it.
Usually we eat macaroni or we drink water or tea.
My mom will sometimes like make food and then she won't have enough, so at night we'll just eat cereal or something. Other times my parents will fight about money because they don't have enough money to pay the food.
We have to sometimes take food from a church. It's hard because my grandmother's also out of work and we usually get some food from her.
It's kind of embarrassing because the next day you go to school asking kids if they want this or if they want that. If they have cereal and they haven't opened it yet, you go ask them if they want their cereal.
And yet, in this country, the debate is about how much money are we going to cut from programs that feed these kids. Not whether or not we're going to, how much. This country is not broke. This country is in no danger of going broke. And yet, to finance the tax cuts for millionaires, we are raising a generation of kids, 25%, living in poverty. And shitheads like Alan Simpson have the audacity to tell us this is about our grandkids. I tweeted out a chart, breakdown, programs at risk for these budget cuts versus tax breaks for the wealthy. $11.2 billion from early childhood programs. $11.5 billion, the per-year cost of recent tax cuts for millionaires' estates. $8.9 billion, low-income housing programs. $8.9 billion, cost of allowing mortgage interest deduction for vacation homes. $7.6 billion, supplemental nutrition for poor families, otherwise known as WIC. It's pregnant women. $6.7 billion, the cost of estate planning techniques used by wealthy to avoid taxes. $4.6 billion, teacher training and after-school programs. $5.2 billion, the cost of removing limit on itemized deduction for high-income taxpayers for the year 2011. $4.1 billion, job training for unemployed workers and new workers. $4.1 billion, cost of tax breaks for offshore operations of U.S. financial companies. $2.5 billion, low-income energy assistance grants to poor families. $2.5 billion, tax breaks for oil companies. Those are write-offs for drilling and oil well costs in the fiscal year 2012. $2.5 billion, community health centers. $4.9 billion, the cost of extending alcohol fuel tax breaks. $2.0 billion, homeless assistance grants. $2.3 billion, tax loophole for managers of hedge funds and private equity funds in the fiscal year 2012. $420 million, legal services for the poor. $312 million, the cost of allowing companies to write off punitive damages over the course of 10 years. $317 million, the Title X family planning. $303 million, cost of special tax breaks for timber industry. $44 billion, all programs at risk combined. $42 billion is the one-year cost of extending the Bush tax cuts for the top brackets in fiscal year 2012.
High on a hill was a lonely goat herd, lay, hoodle-lay, hoodle-lay, hee-hoo. Loud was the voice of the lonely goat herd, lay, hoodle-lay.